views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Today, my special guest, also a friend of mine, is Priscilla Hurley. And she is all the way over in Alaska. Gee, wow. Is it snowing there, kiddo?
Yes, actually it is.
Is that what that white stuff is called? Snow?
It's really beautiful, you know, but it does limit our lives substantially.
Well, how many inches of snow?
I'm looking out my window, I see probably at least 5 inches, maybe 6 inches on the.
Oh, I doubt if it ever gets that way here. Well, I got a whole raft of questions for you, girl.
Yes.
Well, let's start off with Ohio passing the law that allows abortion up to the time of birth. They passed it, they okayed it, and that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very sad. I read the news last night and I just, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Just honestly, I feel like I couldn't even believe it.
People have a lot of veils over their hearts and minds. They don't see the truth and see how much people suffer, babies, you know. So someday, hopefully with the Lord's help, we can reach out to them and they can listen, hear. So.
Yeah. And that's something that is kind of my drumbeat these days.
Now, trauma.
Well, yes.
In having abortions, what happens to the ladies, girls who have abortion? And, you know.
Yeah, I think that it's a shame that these bills are being passed, and it's just continues to be a battle in many states.
What happens to the woman?
Well, the women often will just at first feel relieved if she has an abortion, but then the manifestation of the trauma involved in the experience. You know, we do a lot to self-justify as human beings. And I was pretty good at that too. And I, for many years, my experience with abortion is, as you know, multi-layered. And I think for these years that I have left, I feel like what I want to try to encourage people to do is get in touch with the reality. We've been fighting this battle for life for many, many years. We have a lot of groups that have joined together to talk about their abortion experiences, to get it out, to talk publicly if they're called to do that, like me, or they can talk privately in a group or a support group. And until those of us that have been part of the ravage of abortion, not only the babies we lost, but just in our own personal lives, it has to be that in order to break these cycles, you know, I talk about the cycle of trauma.
Yeah.
In order to break the trauma and break the cycle, we have to address, you know, the elephant in the room, so to speak, if you don't mind me using an old cliche, but it is true that there's a tremendous amount of loss and heartbreak.
Yes.
And,
Is there a lot of hate towards one person themselves?
yes. And I
And
think that's when they, a lot of the abuses uh, are a manifestation of the shame and the self-hatred. And, you don't even know that you're doing this sometimes, you like in my case, I was a young woman, but I feel like I lived manifesting all of this pain, but I didn't really know it was attributed to the losses and the trauma of abortion until I was really, until I had come to faith in Christ and he started regenerating my mind and helped me address those losses and seek his forgiveness and
are
repent.
you
Really,
are you still trying to get healed, or are you healed? How
I
long
won't.
does it take?
I know it takes a lifetime, I think, because being healed gives us an ability to walk in his grace fully. And I never want to think of myself as being fully healed. Every time I share my story, it's like I get a new little nugget of truth about it. And
Pain too.
yeah, and I didn't start this healing journey really until 2019, seriously, because of
Oh wow, that's not long.
no. And the reason for that is, I knew that my mother attempted to take my life. I'm an abortion survivor in the womb. I didn't know this. She told me when I was 19. So
Hmm.
um, that's a secret that she kept. She dropped that she kind of dropped that news on me. And it just kind of stayed there. And I didn't address any questions about it until again, I had my own children. I become a mother myself. So yeah,
What
it
made
started,
her tell you?
huh?
What made her tell you?
Because I had gotten pregnant in at 19 in college.
Right.
And I was afraid that I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do. So I had this boyfriend and I did love him, but I didn't know what to do about that. I was 19 in college. So I called my mom. She came and got me, took me down to our home. And then because, oops, looks like they, my mom and dad arranged for me to have a legal abortion in a hospital. So that's what we did. And I just complied and trusted them. And this is the betrayal part of abortion,
Yes.
because people that you trust say it's all going to be okay. And it's really not. I went back to college and my boyfriend broke up with me. And
Yeah.
then I just started to spiral down because I was dealing with all this loss and I didn't know how. We didn't talk about things back then. So my parents were part of that. It was the same type of procedure that my mother had when she tried to abort me. So it was like, okay, we're repeating history here. And that's why I think she told me. I think she felt there was an opportunity to share that with me.
She was compelled to tell you at that stage, at that age.
Maybe.
You're adult enough to handle it or whatever.
Yeah,
No
I
one
guess.
can handle it,
I,
no
I
matter what age.
yeah, I think the way she said it and then that was all that was said is, by the way, I tried to have you aborted. So that's, I was never able to really explore that with her, because why would she say that after I had just had
An
this
abortion.
abortion?
She's trying to make it as if it's okay or not, what you had
I
done.
guess, that I'm with you,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
experienced it too, but it's like,
Behind
wait,
you.
that was me though. And there's a perspective that when you survive an attempted abortion, and my twin didn't survive, but I
Mm.
did. And, there's a lot of, dynamic there, and a lot of hurt and pain. And, she dealt with that shame for a number of years. And, probably to her dying day, I don't think her husband ever knew that she was married to. I'm guessing that, okay. She was widowed when she was pregnant with me, which is what prompted her to even make that decision. She had 4 children, widowed, pregnant with the 5th, and overwhelmed. And so isn't that the way it is for women that have abortion today? Today is so different because I think that, I worked in the industry. I've had my own abortions. I've worked in pregnancy counseling. And, if birth control fails, then they turn to abortion. So sometimes it's not even thought about.
Yes.
And of course, you go to an abortion clinic and I'll tell you right away that they are not going to tell you any truth whatsoever.
It's a horrible place to be.
Yes, it is. It's like going into, I don't know. It's just, it's evil. They're going to deceive you.
Evil is right.
And they are making a lot of money, and they have a lot of power. And it's just God, when you think of it from God's perspective, the life belongs to God. It's his. And I realized many years later in my life that although I struggled with my mother, she wasn't able to love me. And I think that's because she just had this cloak of shame over her. And I wasn't supposed to be here after all, So
we're like,
but I'm glad I am. I had to work through all that. I'm glad I'm here. I had to work through a lot of the neglect I had as a child, though, right? Because children need to be wanted. I mean, it's a better place to come into if you feel
wanted.
Yeah, if you feel that love. And
how about your father? Was he more loving?
Yes, he loved my mom enough to marry her with 5 children. And I never met my biological dad, but because he died. And
I'm sorry.
But my dad that raised us, we took his name. He's the only dad I've ever known. He's very loving. And he did such a wonderful job raising us. It gave us a wonderful childhood, So he took on a lot. So I kind of look at him being God's provision for all of us, because my mother wasn't easy to love either.
He was afraid to love because what she had done. She was afraid to love you.
She was, yes.
And for that, I myself forgive people who are like that. And I love them, and I open the door, leave the door open for them. You never know that they'll come to the Lord themselves and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. She passed away a long time ago, but I think she reconciled with it her own self. And that's the most important, because I'll see her someday, on the other side of things. I believe that.
Abyss. In heaven. Wow. So struggling with depression, drinking a lot, or using drugs, or
all that life without God stuff.
So
all things that are really rebelliousness against serving yourself and your needs.
Yeah, you forgot about your creator.
Well, I hadn't met him yet, even though
he wasn't introduced to you.
Well, he was introduced to me because he worked in my life through circumstances, and I almost died in a car accident. And during that time, I was touched by an angel. And it, that's a different story that takes a while to explain. But that happened to me. I was saved. I didn't die. But when I recovered and he started the recovery process, because I broke my neck, I started challenging my own life and my thoughts about what I was doing and my purpose. I was in San Francisco living with a man and working in an abortion clinic. So I think the Lord, does what he needs to do to get our attention. And
Yes.
he
He
got
gave
my
you a second chance, girl.
yes. And I started pursuing truth and what my purpose. I still didn't know who God was personally, but what he did is he arranged for me to go to rural Alaska from San Francisco for an internship and working to finish my graduate program. And rural Alaska is beautiful. It was, God speaks to us through his creation. And like my spirit opened. I had Christian friends for the first time, truly Christian, friends. And they loved me and witnessed to me. And I hadn't changed my acting out behavior. I got pregnant again. So this is the third time I had been pregnant. And I was finished my graduate program and I was pregnant. And I just made a decision. I'm not going to have another abortion. Nobody's in my life. Nobody's in my life right now to influence me because I kind of surrendered that decision to other people, which is an important point to make here, because when you let other people determine your fate, really, your well-being, and they don't really have your well-being in their hearts,
like control over you.
Yes. And I thought my boyfriend, when I was 25, that he made that decision to have an abortion. And I thought, oh, I just guess I have to surrender to that, even though I didn't really want to. But I thought he would break up with me. I didn't have my own voice,
But you got your own backbone now, girl.
Yeah, I got my backbone now, and I pushed through that the voice of some people in my life that said, have another abortion. And I said, no, I'm
That's
not
all
going
they think of. They don't think of what happens.
No. And I just was that touched by that angel, I think, just worked to give me more strength, even though I still didn't know Christ. But 4 months after my son was born, I realized I needed Christ. So that's when I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ and repented of all of that rebelliousness that I had gone through.
He chose you.
Yeah, and I thanked. And the important thing, and this is good for people to hear, is that the love that I was looking for in my rebellious, selfish acts was the love that I found through Christ. The same love that saved me in the womb.
Yeah.
The same love that saved me from the car accident.
Yeah.
And
he fills the heart. He satisfies you.
Yes.
And he helps you.
Yeah.
Because he loves you, man.
My mind. Renewed my mind. Our minds are dark when we're in the darkness. And God can go in there and renew our thoughts, give us a whole new understanding. His word promises that. And, it's a process of learning, but the big thing is breaking that cycle in your life of self-destruction.
Yes. How do you break that cycle?
You have to, first of all, admit to yourself that there is a problem. Like I did on my knees when my son was 4 months old. I realized I had made a mess of my life. And so I just said, Lord, please come and help me. That was as simple as it was. And, ever since then, I've been his girl. Finally got on the right side of
the Lord himself.
Yeah.
So, may you be blessed forever.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Project Rachel.
Yes, Project Rachel. Well, I want to talk about where women can get help.
Yes.
Project Rachel is it's nationwide. It's a place where you can look online if you want to find out if there's a place in your vicinity. There's one in Alaska, and they offer this a really deep and thorough healing program. And for women that have experienced abortion and want to address that. And that's just one of lots and lots and lots of resources. There's Surrendering the Secret. There is what is the other one?
The other one is Support After Abortion.
Yeah, well, Support After Abortion is a great place to go because they have they have a network. They know who's out there doing this in the nation, and or maybe even worldwide. I don't know if they've extended beyond that, but they can be a reach through their website, supportafterabortion.com, and they can sign you up to talk to somebody just one-on-one over like what we're doing now.
Counseling?
You don't have to be there. You could do it through Zoom. But they can also, if you're struggling and you haven't really come to a faith at all, any of these programs would welcome you. Even Project Rachel, which is a Catholic, it's Catholic doctrine, but they will talk to you if they can help you and modify their process for you, they will, or they can refer to somebody who might have another less religious process. But
if you're not religious, but you need the counseling, they're there for you, and no one is going to say, you're not going to force me to believe in what you believe.
No.
But if they want to believe, they can ask.
Yes. There's a lot of different, there's a Bible study out there that I've done with my friend called Forgiven and Set Free. Very detailed Bible verses. And that's what I wanted. I wanted that because I believe in the power
to hear
of that. Yes. And what God says about it. I mean, we're in a lot of company with the characters in the Bible, the different people in the Bible, because none of them were perfect,
No.
Paul himself, killed Christians, and
Saul or Paul.
Yeah. So we're in company that we can relate to. God has things he says about it all, and so I mean, it's really healing to go that route. But Support After Abortion is particularly focused on reaching out to women that are struggling but don't necessarily have an active faith. And so that would be a good place to start, or any place to start. Call somewhere.
Give them peace of mind that they are precious. They are wanted by the Lord.
Yeah. Yes.
And also Surrendering the Secret. Is that a company?
That's another
nonprofit.
Post-abortion, we call it, women who have had abortion that are struggling. And, I don't know what it's going to take to reverse this trend of legitimizing and legalizing abortion up to birth, etc. I think the more that women and men have the freedom to speak out about the damage, the trauma, the injury, the poor outcomes of this. I mean, my grandson is in Army Reserve, and he, during his training as a chaplain's assistant, they talked about abortion, and they kind of they asked the class to divide itself on pro-abortion or anti-abortion, right? So he went on the anti side, and when he was able to speak, he said, you know what, if my great-grandmother who tried to abort my grandmother, if it was successful, I wouldn't be here. And he made a really valid point for people to think about how big of a loss abortion is. It's not just, it's a baby, yes, and that breaks everybody's heart.
Generation after generation shall be destroyed if one person is killed.
Yeah. So we're asking for God's judgment when we continue to legalize something that is so evil, and destructive.
Well, the devil himself is blinded and put a block of coal in that person's heart.
Yes,
So
it does. It has a way of doing that. And you see, you see these angry women in the street, it's just there's a lot of hatred, a lot of anger on some of these issues. And I just look at that and go, there is such pain and loss that the only outlet they have is anger. They don't,
they lash out.
that's how I look at it. It looks like they just really hate themselves so much. They've got to project that hate off onto somebody else. So
Yes. Blame other people for what she did.
Yeah.
Well, it's not her fault if she's pressured into it. She has, quote, no other way, but there are other ways.
There are.
Let's talk about that, like adoption or.
Yes, I mean, there's so many. I was in Minnesota at a pregnancy center in October, and what they have to offer the community is so, I mean, I'm kind of the poster child really of somebody who suffered from abortion but had no support, none.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of march through and forward in my own, and it just turned me out to more rebelliousness. When you have these centers and these people in, and they're everywhere. We have in Alaska, I think we have five pregnancy centers that are offering women's services to talk about their pregnancies and what their options are, and to lend a loving, supportive hand. I think that is so huge, and it is something that I never had, and I'm sad about that, because for me, but happy for other women that are struggling, that need somebody to reach out. They don't have any support, possibly.
And with that, what would you like to say to my audience? Because we're just about ready to
wrap it up. Well, I'd like to encourage your audience to keep talking about the damage of abortion, not only to the babies. We want to save babies. We do. That's, of course, God's plan. He creates life. He knit them together in their mother's womb. And it's the world is dangerous. They need love coming in. So they need to have a good, welcoming
family
community.
For one.
Yes, family for one. Talk about your abortions. Mothers, if you've had abortions and you haven't talked to it about your children that are old enough to know about it, you should, because you got to break that cycle and deal with that yourself, if that's appropriate. So that would be my talk about it. Don't let the secret hide.
That's right. Don't hold it in. Speak.
1 in 4 women have had abortions, they say. Might be even more than that. So there's a lot of pain.
Or who know have had abortions.
Yes.
Multiple abortions, some of them.
Yeah.
So we gotta go.
Okay.
I gotta interview you again, girl. You mind?
Yes.
So
maybe I'll come to your digs there, and we could talk face to face.
Gotcha.
That would be
I'd
fun.
like to thank my audience, and I'd like to thank Priscilla Hurley. So we love you, girl.
Thank you so much, Patty. God bless you and your work.
We'll see you next week.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above.